All right, more bad news coming out of the 49ers one day after their 27-24 loss to the LA Rams. The 49ers got another gut punch here. Javon Hargrave, their defensive tackle, will probably be out for the season. He did, in fact, tear his triceps. The 49ers were hoping that it was just a bruise, but Hargrave will undergo surgery, more than likely out for the year. And so that's obviously a big blow to this team. Kyle Shanahan described it as a big one. He said, I thought he had his best game yesterday. He was definitely going in the right direction, and he was going to have a big year. So, like I said, very outside chance that he could return, but probably not. So now what did the 49ers do? The first step is they'll probably promote one or more defensive linemen to take that spot on the 53-man roster. 49ers right now have 52 players on their 53-man roster, so they have an open spot. And of course, they'll create another spot with Javon Hargrave going on injured reserve. So the guys they have on their practice squad right now, the defensive linemen, T.Y. McGill, he's seen extensive playing time for the 49ers in the past. Alex Barrett, Sam Okawanu, who's been elevated a couple times. The 49ers could bring him up. And then a young guy from Florida Atlantic, an undrafted rookie, Evan Anderson. He's also on the practice squad. So we'll see what the 49ers do there. They'll also move some guys around. Yetur Gross-Matos, who came out of that game yesterday without any injury concerns, according to Shanahan, he's an option to play on the interior too. So right now, the 49ers' top defensive tackles are Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott. So those are the two guys. Also, 49ers expect Kalia Davis back pretty soon. Probably not this week, but maybe the following week. He started the season on injured reserve designated to return. So Kalia Davis should be back soon. A couple of other injury notes. Brock Purdy had some soreness in his back. He underwent an MRI that checked out to be just fine. So the 49ers are hopeful that he'll be feeling better and he can get out there and practice on Wednesday. So we all saw Brock Purdy. He got banged up a little bit, rushing the ball 10 times for 41 yards in the game. Soreness in his back, but okay. D. Winters aggravated the previous ankle injury. And so this is kind of a setback for him too, because you kind of got the sense that the 49ers were willing to maybe give him the opportunity to replace Devondre Campbell in the lineup. Something similar to what we saw the week previously, where the 49ers mixed in Malik Mustafa in place of George Odom at safety. 49ers appeared to be ready to maybe turn the page a little bit on Devondre Campbell. Campbell had a rough day in coverage, giving up some pass completions, and then, of course, the big 25-yard pass interference penalty as well. As far as the guy who will eventually take over, Dre Greenlaw still looking at a mid-season kind of return for him. Another thing, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan confirmed that McCaffrey is going to Germany to meet with a specialist for the Achilles tendonitis. Obviously, not a good sign that they're taking that kind of drastic measure for McCaffrey to seek that kind of help overseas. McCaffrey has now missed 2 games as far as while on injured reserve. He's missed 3 games total, so he's going to be ineligible for the next 2 games. But boy, by the looks of things, it certainly appears as if he's going to be out for an extended period of time if he's able to return at all. So that's kind of the injury update for the 49ers. 49ers also hoping that George Kittle can come back for practice this week. Deebo Samuel probably miss another week with the calf injury. So some other things I wanted to kind of touch on from the game yesterday that I was able to ask Kyle Shanahan about. One was, and this is something that kind of escaped my notice just because of how my workflow works during the course of a game. But the 49ers in this game took over after the Rams had tied it. 49ers took over with 151 remaining. And as we've all watched the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan, what they try to do at the end of the first half is whenever they get the ball late in the first half, they want to make sure, almost their number one priority is to make sure the other team doesn't get the ball back at any time. So with that in mind, I guess you could look at it and say, well, that wasn't consistent how they handled the end of the fourth quarter to how they usually handle the end of the first half. And so what Shanahan said was that the goal was to run the clock down, but The number one goal was to score, to go win the game. And so they had every intention of running the clock down. And that's why they didn't go into the 2 minute drill. And that's why after one play, they let a lot of time run off. But, the incompletions certainly hampered that. Brock Purdy scrambling out of bounds on the first down play, that kind of impacted that as well. But what ended up happening, of course, was after the Ronnie Bell drop, the 49ers, and then on a third and long play, Brock Purdy scrambled. The Rams had one timeout left. That's when they used it. They gave them plenty of time with the breakdown on the special teams coverage unit. Rams went down the field and ended up scoring the winning points. More talk about Jacob Cowing, and I think it's pretty clear that Kyle Shanahan just doesn't think he's ready to play as far as learning the offense and not being kind of a fish out of water when he gets on the field. That's why Jacob Cowing hasn't been on the field for any offensive plays in 3 games. To quote Kyle Shanahan, he says he's still working to get out there. He's trying to get more comfortable with the offense and earn a role, and that he's getting closer and closer, but he's still got a ways to go. Or I think he said the exact words, he's still got a bit to go, though. He hasn't been able to make his way into that top group of wide receivers, but when he's ready, he'll be ready. Um, if you watch Baldy's breakdowns, Brian Baldinger, he showed a really interesting clip of a play where 4 minutes left in the game, 49ers are up by 7, and Brandon Ayuk is running down the field all alone. And it looked like Purdy looked his way, but just couldn't pull the trigger. He ran around, scrambled around, and ended up throwing a 5 yard pass to Juwan Jennings. I asked Kyle Shanahan about that play, or actually, I didn't ask. Somebody else asked. So I don't want to take credit for that. But yeah, I think it was Nick Wagner from ESPN asked Shanahan about that play. And this is the kind of things that you don't, unless you're on the inside, you don't know about this. So Shanahan was very good about explaining what happened. It was basically the Rams busted their coverage. They were supposed to be in one defensive look, and when they busted the coverage, Brandon Ayuk changed his route, and he did it. That's the way he's supposed to do it. Instead of running a curl, he ran a go route and went to the open spot. Well, Purdy saw Ayuk was not in the position he should have been in, and it took him a while to kind of calibrate like what's going on. The Rams should have been in this defense. They weren't. And before he let that ball go, he wanted to make sure that there wasn't a safety somewhere where that safety shouldn't have been. So he was expecting one defense. The Rams were supposed to be in that defense, according to Shanahan, who would know this, but they ended up part of the guys were the one corner on that side ran a different defense. In other words, under the defense that the Rams were supposed to be running, that corner should have gone with Ayuk deep. Instead, he covered the flat, which left the deep completely uncovered. However, before Purdy could make that throw, he had to evaluate where the safety was. And by that time, it was too late. So that's what happened on that play. Just kind of a bizarre play where the Rams blew a coverage. They busted it, and they still got away with it because they busted it so bad. It basically confused Brock Purdy into not knowing exactly where all the Rams defenders were. He knew where they were supposed to be, but not necessarily where they were because the one guy who had coverage on that side wasn't where he's supposed to be. I don't know if I explained that well, but I'm trying my best here, folks. Back to special teams. Kyle Shanahan reiterated that he wants special teams to just not blow it. He said you'd like for special teams to go win a game, but the big thing is that special teams just don't go lose a game. And that's basically where the 49ers have been the last couple of weeks. A blocked punt and then not stopping the Rams on a fake punt. And that's a play the 49ers were expecting. What Shanahan said was that's coaching, that's playing, that's everything. Also, he talked about the punt return, the long punt return that got the Rams in position for the winning points. If there was a clip that wasn't called, but hey, That's those are the breaks. So once again, that's kind of the breakdown of what happened on Kyle Shanahan's day after game conference call. The big news, Javon Hargrave, who the 49ers went out, they paid big money for. They're expecting big things. And he is out for the season. So that means basically, not basically, it means that the 49ers starting defensive tackles from a year ago. Javon Hargrave out for the season. Eric Armstead released in the offseason. He's now with Jacksonville. And Javon Kinlaw, who was their number three defensive tackle last year with the Jets. So 49ers are going to have to rely on some new faces in the middle of that defensive line, and they hope Kalia Davis comes back shortly. They also have Kevin Givens, of course, who can play a role in the 49ers rotation on the defensive line. So that's it for now. Once again, thank you for subscribing. Really appreciate everybody who subscribe. I really appreciate everyone who comments. I try to get through as many comments as I can. Sometimes it's a little bit tough, but also appreciate the likes and everything else. So until next time, thanks so much for watching.